Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. When this show first looked at the agents of Danger Girl, they were mucking around in Gotham, where its chief protector didn't really want them. Let's see if they have better luck with some real American heroes, in what seems like one of the unlikeliest crossovers ever. Late 90s saucy spy shenanigans meets mid-80s military-themed toy commercial. I'm taking issue with Danger Girl / G.I. Joe, so let's see if these comics make us want to turn the page, or turn our heads. The cover to issue 1 has serious spy movie poster vibes, which really makes sense. We get an imposing Cobra commander in the background, surrounded by fire, Duke, Flint, Deuce, and Johnny with Abbey Chase in the foreground, posed all saucy-like, rocking a new hairstyle and wearing a revealing Cobra outfit.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Written by Andy Hartnell, with art by John Royal, Philip Moy, and Romulo Fajardo Jr., we begin with a splash page of Cobra ambushing Scarlet and Flint as they're escorting a transport plane, backed up by Ace and Lady J, as seen on this 2-page spread. Is it just me, or has Amazon's 2-day shipping gotten more complicated these days? Scarlet manages to loop back and take out one enemy, but 2 more rattlers are forcing the cargo plane onto a new flight path. She and Flint are hit, their Sky Striker leaking fuel, and in the enemy's sights, though are saved by Ace and J, and a pair of Sidewinder missiles, though flying through the resulting fireball cooks their targeting systems. If only they'd added the marinade before takeoff! Flint and Scarlet aren't doing much better, with their fuel running low and having to make an emergency landing. The commanding officer orders the other 2 back to base so they can send a rescue team to retrieve them later, getting insistent when Lady J objects. But they follow orders, taking off as their comrades have one more Rattler to deal with. Unable to fire at close range, what with being covered in gas, Scarlet instead opts to send her plane on a collision course with the last bogey, as she and Flint eject just in time for another explosive 2-pager. I'm beginning to think Scarlet just doesn't want to admit that for all her excellent piloting and dogfighting skills, she never actually learned how to land a plane. Kinda weird we get the credits again. Without them, it'd still be a pretty cool scene, if arguably a little less fillery. But if they were going to put them here, why have the credits page before the story? Anyway, news seems to travel fast as we go to the USS Flag, G.I. Joe's mobile command base, where General Hawk is mentioning how they straight up lost that cargo plane, and as a result, they're getting a visit from the President of the United States, which seems to rile up a certain 4-legged Joe. Not because the President here is a woman, but because Junkyard fundamentally disagrees with her policy on who's a good boy. A briefing, including hollow imagery reminiscent of the early seasons of Bones, shows that Cobra was able to sneak up on the Joes through use of data vipers, these mech-looking get-ups that jammed comms and prevented the Sky Strikers from sending distress signals. The Prez is disappointed since their job is to counter threats from Cobra, and while Hawk is about to take responsibility, Duke steps on his line, offering to take the blame instead. However, the Commander-in-Chief decides to hold the whole team accountable, immediately suspending all operations. Lady J requests to at least search for the missing Joes, who Duke suggests are 2 of their best and are likely alive. But the Prez will instead send Army Rangers to search for them, while G.I. Joe is restricted from any action until further notice, then leaves the room. Neither Duke nor Jay like this, but their best option is to wait things out for now.
Oh, the waiting game sucks. Let's play Hungry Hungry Hippos.
We later go to, I guess, the women's quarters, where Jay is joined by CoverGirl and a meditating Jinx. Is it weird that they're basically wearing palette swaps of the same outfit, tank top and shorts? Like the same mold of a Transformer done in different colors to be different characters? Maybe I'm overthinking it. And a ship that big, they all have to share the same space? These 3 and Scarlet are the only women on the team. Is there a 4th bed just out of frame that make it even more cramped? Or did the redhead look out and get her own room on that boat? Moving on, CoverGirl insists this is what politics is like, and they'll just need to wait a few days for Hawk to sort things out. Jay insists they need to do something. Maybe not jump ship like Jinx suggests, but perhaps get an assist from someone outside G.I. Joe. It just so happens that CoverGirl knows a guy with connections, someone who was the only other American on a French C-130 she was recently on. He claimed that Courtney, CoverGirl's real name and all she gave him to avoid mentioning the Joes, reminded him of a woman he knew that had recently infiltrated a slithery terrorist organization, but he jumped out before he could clarify if he was talking about Cobra, because I guess there are a lot of reptilian-themed cabals out there we just haven't seen yet. The guy gave her a card, which she shows off to the others, identifying him as an international badass.
Johnny Barracuda? Who is this guy?
Proto-Sterling Archer.
I honestly have no response to that.
Currently, he's in Singapore, atop a crane at the mercy of some bad guy who did it for the money and some girl. He distracts his foe by suggesting there's a naked lady behind him, and when he looks, Johnny kicks him off, with an admittedly delightful pun about falling for the oldest trick in the book. That's when he gets a call from Courtney, and is all too happy to be of service. Meanwhile, in coordinates unknown, Flint and Scarlet have been wandering in the wild for hours, with no sign of their plane's distress beacon, and so far no Joe search party. Flint grabs a snake from attacking his teammate, almost like foreshadowing. That is instantly paid off on the next page, as right in front of them are 3 Cobra tanks and a squad of troopers closing in. You're telling me they couldn't hear 3 huge tanks running over trees and driving over unpaved terrain? And even if they had some kind of silent drive technology or something, you also expect me to believe that not one Cobra goon would be singing "In the Jungle" over and over just to annoy his squad? You ask too much of me, sir! Flint tells the Ginger to run as he throws the serpent at one of the enemies, and that's about as well as they do in the fight. Scarlet is immediately captured, and he who rocketh the beret is clocked in the jaw and ordered to surrender by Abbey Chase, agent of the Cobra emblem. Did they decide to change their name to a symbol? Who do they think they are, Prince? Do we now call them the terrorist organization determined to rule the world, formerly known as Cobra? Issue 2's main cover is part of a larger picture, the rest featured in subsequent issues featuring the heroines and villainesses of both series. Done by J. Scott Campbell, just like the alternate, which is a nice piece of Scarlet drawing her bow. We jump back 3 days to the Baltic Sea, where Deep Six is descending to investigate some wreckage. I'm certain I dropped my keys somewhere around here. Sonar scans figure it's the remains of a wartime weapons freighter, and just as Deep Six's assurance that his suit could take more pressure, and his helmet starts audibly cracking, he's found the ship, confirming that it's not only military, but of German origin, from the uniforms of the dead still floating around. Also, I guess that ship was carrying a tank when it went under. Either that, or someone really didn't want to stop and ask for directions. The diver finds what he's looking for, and 3 missiles are subsequently lifted to his waiting vessel above, where Scarlet, Shipwreck, and Flint await. It does initially look like 2 missiles, and I had to go back and double-check, and it appears like a 3rd one was awkwardly added here, like they originally meant for it to be 3, but some miscommunication or innocent mistake only had 2 initially drawn. It's speculated that they may have been secret experimental armaments that never got used during World War II, and General Hawk wants them secured immediately. Scarlet volunteers Flint to join her on escort duty because what's the worst that could happen? And that's when we return to the present, where the 2 Joes are shackled to a wall as Abbey walks in. So tell us, Chase, what did you do before joining Cobra?
OnlyFans. Nothing too lewd, mind you, but enough that I'm funding 40% of this operation.
She responds that she's been on board long enough to know the Joes won't be winning this fight, and isn't scared of the dangers associated with working with the organization. She flirts a little, caressing his face, and he doesn't seem to mind nearly as much as Scarlet. Baroness approaches, admitting she shares the apparent interest in Flint in particular, and snarks about arranging a playdate before the Joes are executed, which will be shortly after their arrival at Cobra HQ. For now, she wants Chase to join her in the cockpit. Flint thinks there's something about Abbey, which Scarlet figures is her cardio routine and catsuit, but he meant something else, as if she were struggling with a secret. Victoria's secret? They have arrived at Cobra Command, which I'm not even going to try and make sense of the architecture. It's some kind of dam and it looks kind of weird. And they fly through the large gateway disguised as a mountainside. Destro is there waiting for them, as he's presented with Chase's offering of the 2 Joes, who are quickly taken away. The commander will appreciate this, and Abbey starts handling the gem around Destro's neck, having assumed he was in charge. He's not surprised by this, but a jealous Baroness interrupts this dalliance, changing subjects to the status of the missiles. 2 are already stationed near the targets, but a third is undergoing reconditioning in the lab, as they all have more powerful warheads than expected and a propulsion system unlike anything developed by Destro's own Mars Industries. Although, in fairness, all our weapons are powered by hamsters running on wheels. However, they do have primitive guidance systems, so homing beacons will have to be placed at their targets. As Baroness takes the beacon, I guess unplugging it, and only for it to be taken by Abbey, Destro is certain the Joes won't intervene this time, which his bespectacled paramour questions because, they always interfere. As Chase seems to either coyly toy with the gizmo or tries to get it to stop blinking 12, we return to the USS Flag, where Madam President says her ranger team came up empty-handed, and until further notice declares Scarlet and Flint missing in action. That's when Lady J, CoverGirl, and Jinx walk in, saying they've actually been captured by Cobra. They even have proof obtained by outside parties after they were ordered to suspend operations. So the Prez threatens to charge Lady J with leading a mutiny, and she actually looks bored more than anything else. When the main character knows they have main character armor. An unidentified shopper is landing on deck, whom Jay gave her clearance codes, since it was only after contacting them that they discover the status of their fellow Joes, what with the Prez not even letting them launch a rescue mission. On top of that, one of the agents has already infiltrated enemy ranks, under the brilliant alias Steve Not a Spy. The chopper lands as it's greeted by numerous armed Joes, and some of their pets, because Duke can shoot you, Roadblock can pummel you, but Polly the Parrot will mess you up. Ordered to exit the vehicle, out steps Danger Girl, with a member not seen in the Batman crossover, Sonia Savage. She's a former Australian Secret Intelligence Service agent, turned bounty hunter, turned Danger Girl, expert archer, and sister to Sydney. The Prez declares herself, grasping Sydney's shoulders and demanding she identify herself, which she does, then clocks the Commander-in-Chief to the shock of the Joes. And with the size of that font, you know she means business. Can we all at least agree that political disagreements have gotten way too violent these days? They struggle before Sid is kicked off and lands in Roadblock's arms, along with the face she was wearing, as Sonia asks if anyone recognizes the imposter. Tom Cruise! He's really getting method for these Mission Impossible sequels. It's Zarana, sister of Zartan and fellow expert of disguise, who I guess wanted to wear her fancy frilly bra on this mission. Did she just want to feel desirable while impersonating the president? Just looks expensive is all. Anyway, now she's got all the ladies of both teams aiming weapons at her, wanting answers, as the issue ends. Well, except for Silicon Valerie, because she's armed with a tablet and can probably only threaten to post really nasty memes about her. Issue 3 has 2 covers, the next section of the larger piece, and another Campbell image, this time of the Baroness holding Destro's mask. This is why he doesn't like holding Shakespeare in Cobra Park. They always pick Hamlet, and they always want to use his face for Yurik's skull. And is it just me, or does the Baroness look younger here? Maybe it's just the coloring technique, but she looks more like an evil college co-ed. Anywho, we start with Destro holding a holo projection of the Cobra symbol, while Baroness and Abbey are on either side of him. Shall we begin? This is the start of one of those scammy affiliate marketing videos, isn't it? First, he draws you in with the saucy ladies in skin-tight outfits, then he takes you on a tour of his secret base that a simple Google search reveals he rented to pretend was his own. 15 minutes of that idiocy is why people use adblock on YouTube. He's actually talking to Firefly and Major Blood, the latter of whom laments doing all the dirty work for Metalface's plan. He considers it a suicide mission, and Firefly agrees. The missiles are set to launch once the beacons are planted in Moscow and Beijing, projected to wipe the cities out completely, and they would prefer not to be around for the big kabooms. They're assured that it'll be a half hour before the missiles hit their targets, so we'll need to devise exit strategies. Given such a short time frame, Chase suggests calling the whole thing off, but clarifying she meant postpone, only to hear someone shout an accusation of spoiling their plans, knowing the dissenter's secrets. She instinctively goes for her gun, but Zartan stays her hand, pointing out that wasn't addressed to her. Cobra Commander says that every time the Packers are losing. No, I'm kidding. He's just killing a nameless henchman, slashing him with his sword, and sending him over a railing.
Coward! I specifically ordered a cranberry muffin. How dare you give me blueberry?
Baroness confirms that was indeed their leader, and Abbey should be glad to be on his good side. Destro smugly offers the beacon to Blood, who angrily takes it and orders his men to get on with the mission. Victory for Cobra and all that. On G.I. Joe's watery HQ, Sydney has already questioned Zarana, getting no info on where to find the missing Joes, in the process of knocking her around. Duke objects to the use of violence against his prisoner and asks who the spy thinks she is, and with a certain amount of smarm, replies that she's the one who captured the enemy after ripping off her false face.
Usually when I do that, there's more blood and viscera, so I was kind of as surprised as you were.
Lady J approaches, J explaining that Danger Girl is a team of spies led by a former MI6 agent, which is enough credibility for General Hawk to respectfully shake hands with Deuce. Duke still questions if they're taking this seriously, bringing a teenager along, but Valerie shows how capable she is by breaking into Cobra's computer network, with the help of Abbey Chase, projected as a hologram from inside the enemy stronghold. Assuring the Joes that she's only under deep cover to foil the terrorists' latest plan, she suggests her team and G.I. Joe join forces to end Cobra's threat once and for all. For 5 minutes, until they start miniaturizing world leaders or turning money into sand or whatever. She explains that 2 missiles are operational, moved to unspecified locales before being fired, while the third one is being studied for later replication. It fits with Cobra's MO, weaken the world with the first strike, then making more weapons of the same caliber to keep the countries at their mercy. Sydney suggests they go after the beacons since they can't launch without a homing signal, and Roadblock is eager to hit Cobra with full force.
I'd rather rush in and start breaking things.
Hawk and Deuce, however, say that would show their hand and allow the enemy to strengthen their defenses. While they're still under the impression that fake Prez Zarana has the Joes twiddling their thumbs, they'll deploy 2 stealth teams while everyone else prepares for a full-scale assault, ending Cobra's plan and preventing them from ever trying anything like this again.
I'd rather break things.
Duke will send an extraction team for Flint and Scarlet and wants Abbey out of there immediately.
That reminds me, they were going to exit something your teammates. Exit, executive, Excel spreadsheets, I can't remember. I'll get back to you.
Deuce agrees. Chase has done her part and should get out while she still can. So she signs off, intending on obeying orders. We jump to an outpost for the battle android troopers, where Lowlight and Stalker are skulking nearby, but don't seem to get to do much, since the robots all get slashed up by their buddy Snake Eyes, as the 3 of them make up the extraction team. Alpha Team, consisting of Sydney, Roadblock, Covergirl, and Snowjob, are in Russia, skiing their way to a cliff overlooking a train tunnel guarded by snow serpents. The original plan was to derail the train, but Sydney's formulated a new one, still requiring Snowjob to hang back and give them the signal when the train approaches, while the other 3 deploy. Her new plan involves putting on disguises and pretending they're barbers giving away free haircuts. Sydney watches a lot of Scooby-Doo and it's begun to affect her work. In Beijing, near the Forbidden City, Bravo Team has been given the green light, so Jinx scuba dives off a fishing boat used as cover, along with Sonia and Johnny, to sneak through the waters. Meanwhile, at Cobra's base, Abbey approaches a guard, asking how the view is, with 2 different dialogue bubbles. I have to believe this was an error they missed, since if she were supposed to be asking twice with added emphasis, there'd be some kind of indicator like bold letters or ellipses or something. She tries seducing the guy, asking if he'd like company, but surprisingly he refuses, needing to work without distractions. "I'm sorry, Miss Chase, and I'll regret this, Miss Chase." I don't know, your leader kills people on a whim, hires theatrical psychopaths as his generals, and making a pass at one of them could get you tortured by another they have an ongoing thing with. If ever there was a valid reason to be more chaste, this work environment seems to be it. "No offense."
None taken.
And she punches his lights out. Well, that makes it seem like you do take offense. You're sending mixed signals. She contacts Deuce, saying she's headed to the rendezvous point, but stops when she hears the unconscious goon's phone beeping, with a notification that the Joes have been cleared for execution. Instead of hightailing it, she opens the door to Flint's cell.
Take off your clothes.
Guess she's not waiting on Baroness to schedule that playdate, huh, folks? Technically, she wants him to dress as a Cobra soldier as a disguise, so they can grab Scarlet on their way out. It's difficult to trust the woman that got them locked up, but Abbey makes a good point that she prevented them from being killed on sight, and intends on escaping with the Joes alive. She insists that he change, so he does, just not in the way she intended. As the final page reveals, this was in fact Zartan, who has confirmed his own suspicions about this new agent.
Our dear Abbey is a spy!
My dear Abbey.
Informing his leader via comms and with a knife aimed at her throat, he's given permission by Cobra Commander to kill her. And that's where we're leaving it for now. After all the espionage, plot twists, and enough cheesecake to induce diabetes, tune in next week to see if the attractive main character is really done for. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.